All right, we are in the final episode of this season, and we are super pumped that you're with us today. Thank you for sharing this content. Thank you so much for subscribing and being a part of the Made for More family. If you don't know me, I'm Aaron Burke. This is Bobby Sasser, and we've had a great time this season, and we love this. We love this season approach. 6 episodes at a time and really just focusing on a topic. And the topic has been my book that just came out, The Unfair Advantage. And I hope you've bought it. If you haven't bought it, check it out. But don't just buy it, read it, review it, help people know about it. And I think it'll be something that will help them. So, Bobby, what was your takeaway of the book? You know, putting someone on the spot here.
Yeah, I have, honestly, and I read it.
Most of it.
Yeah, most of it, right. There are actually so many takeaways. There really are. I think the one that sticks out the most for me is the idea of, honestly, your story with Joseph's story. Like
Thank you. That's the whole.
Yeah. but specifically, in reading it, the thing that I enjoyed.
What I really love.
Actually, what I love is the 7 keys from the life of Joseph for transforming any obstacle into an opportunity.
I just love how the unfairness is an advantage.
No, so in all seriousness, yes. The one thing is, because I'm a big story guy.
Yeah.
I'm a big visual guy. The thing, obviously, there's a lot of one-liners. There's a lot of content there. There's genuinely so much. What I actually took away the most in reading it and prep for this.
This is a big buildup.
Yeah, in prep for this season is your story, actually. Yep. So, and I don't want to give away the whole thing, but just you graduating college, going to a place where you were going to try to get into ministry. We're kind of let down in that place, but it was the preparation and to the mission field. Like that genuinely, because I think that is the story of the success that people look at for Pastor Aaron Burke is actually a story of very unfair things that became advantages. And I'm not just trying to toot your horn. I genuinely, like, as I was reading it, because, there's all the quotes and there's all the stats, and I enjoy all of that. That was actually really great. But that was the monumental thing. It was like, this is truly, the teenage kid that is now going into his 40s. It's that.
I'm not in my 40s yet, but I get the idea.
But almost, though.
Almost. I mean, I'm getting close. I'm knocking on the door. All right. So in this episode, we are going to tackle one of the unfair advantages that people don't really think about. And in the book, it's called The Limited Leader. And when Joseph finally gets to the place of second in command of all of Egypt, it's interesting because he's in control of it all, but he's not. He only has one job.
Yeah.
A single job. And you got to think about this. This guy could have gone, I'm second in command. I'm going to take over. I'm going to change this thing. I'm going to change this. I'm going to build another pyramid. I'm going to do all this stuff. That's not what he did. He had one job. His job was store up for 7 years because 7 years of famine is coming.
Yeah.
You got to think about that. That's pretty substantial that he used all of his time and all of his influence for one purpose.
Yeah.
He was limited, but him being limited to one thing actually was his advantage. So I put this in the book because we have way too many scattered leaders doing too many things that are so distracted from the main purpose that God has for them. So you will be as effective as you are focused.
Yes, that's
and
so
I
good.
want to challenge you as a leader, be a focused leader. I tell our leaders all the time, you're either a chicken or you're an eagle. Chicken or an eagle. Now, maybe you've heard this before. A chicken, you can put a T-bone steak on the top of a counter and a chicken will never see it because you know what a chicken's doing? It's on the ground, in the scraps, in the dirt, looking for little crumbs everywhere. They're just all over. They're busy, but they're not effective. Then you've got an eagle. An eagle can spot its prey 2 to 3 miles away, and it's only focused on that one thing. Be a focused leader. When you learn how to focus yourself on one task, you're going to go, it's unfair. It's unfair that I can't do everything. But what do they say? A jack of all trades is a master of none. So you could be involved in a lot of things, but you're not doing anything effective because you're not focused.
Yes, I agree. And a lot of times that doesn't come natural.
Nope.
You actually even say in the book the idea of multitasking, that your personality lends itself. There's a lot of personalities that might want to. It's like, do you have multiple tabs open on your browser? Are you, there's an author, Cal Newport. He wrote Deep Work. He's a big singular focus guy. That's kind of his message, and his thing is context switching. It's like, which is very normal, especially in our day and age, and really specifically to work for a moment. We use Slack.
Yep.
We use Monday.com. We've got text messages. We've got emails. We've got social media. And so holistically, there's like the big picture of there's a lot happening, right?
Yep.
And then there's the day-to-day. Like, how can you, because even as a leader, you can actually do a lot in a day, and then you get home and you're like, what did I actually accomplish?
That is a great thing, because you can be very busy and not actually benefit the organization. And I've seen it. We've seen it happen where people are like, man, I was jammed all day long. I was just real busy. We're like, doing what? What moved the ball forward? What were you actually putting your work in? That's why I love the idea of the deep work thing. I get into it a little bit. I'm like, you find your spot. You find your thing that you can bring the most value to, and you put all of your energy towards that. And you become an expert. You don't want to become an expert in everything. You want to become an expert in one thing. And it's not that hard. The stat I heard is that if you took an hour a day to focus on one area of your life, an hour a day, within 3 years, you will become one of the top experts in the world at it. Because there's just very few people that really focus that much time to becoming good at one certain thing. So that's what I love about Joseph's story. He recognized his limitation to not do everything, but he could do something that would make a big impact. And that's my challenge for you, is what is the something that you should be putting a vast majority of your energy towards? Like, I love Made for More, but Made for More is supplemental to my life. It is a secondary thing. It's not even on the top 5 things I do as a leader and as the leader of Radiant Church. It's a thing because I have some margin in these, and I go, okay, this is something I want to do with my life. And I want to help leaders, I want to help you. But that is where you have to go, I can't do everything. And by the way, I couldn't have done this 5 years ago because I knew my limitations. Great leaders are able to recognize their limitations and able to own the fact that in this season, I can only be effective in this area, and I'm going to make the most of it.
How do you identify the something to work on in any given season?
All right, so I've broke it down to the staff this way. I say, here's how you figure out what you're to work on. I broke it down in 3 categories. Number 1, what are you paid to do? Like, what is your job? Like, what's in your actual job description? Because if you win in your other 2 things, but you're not winning with what you're paid to do, so what do you focus your life on? What are you paid to do? Like, make it matter. So if you're paid to be a mechanic, like, I love it that you're trying to be TikTok famous, but fix the person's car in front of you right now. Like, that's what you're paid to do.
Yeah.
All right. The second one is what can you do that brings benefit and help to the whole organization?
Yeah.
So I'm going to go, what am I paid to do? What's my job? What can I do to add value to the organization? That's the second thing. So that's where Joseph was second in command. I think it's very interesting that Pharaoh did not hire him and say, your job is to oversee the crisis of the famine. He actually said, your job is to be second in command. Yeah. And by the way, in second in command, you're going to do this. So there was a lot of things he probably did that added value to the kingdom, but he knew what his primary job was.
Yes.
Then what am I going to do to add value to the organization? And then here's the third one. What do I focus on? What brings me life? What is that thing that's going to make me come alive? What is it that this is what I do? I love helping leaders. So this is something that makes me come alive. I come out of this thing refreshed, excited. You got to figure out what that is with you. So I'm going to focus in that category. What is it that I'm paid to do? What is it that I'm doing that brings health and benefits the whole organization? And then what do I do that just makes me come alive that's maybe outside of my job description?
Yeah, no, that's good. I want to talk a little bit about the concept of finishing things. You know, we live in a world where a lot of things get started. You know, there's people that are listening that that's probably what you might enjoy more of, is starting things versus finishing things. I would say that, you know, not to put you in a box, but that's you enjoy starting things, but somehow you have figured out how to navigate also being a person of follow through and finishing things, which I feel like as you button things up, then you can move on to other things. How have you navigated that when your personality lends itself to always wanting to jump to the next thing?
Absolutely. Well, you know, for me, the one thing that helps me finish things is I put things on a list. And I get so much joy of checking things off a list. If I do something that's not on a list, I put it on the list and then I check it off the list because I get so much joy. So part of my life is I just realized the only way to check something off the list is to do the tedious task of the last 10% or the 20% that I just hate. I despise the last 20% of projects. It's the details that drive me nuts. So there's only two ways to get around that. One, if you're in a season where you're putting it on a list and realize you have a discipline to go to the next thing until this thing is accomplished. The second way, which is where I'm at now, which is not where I was at years ago, is I have a team around me that can help supplement the last 20%, which y'all talk about that all the time. My executive team always talks about it. Okay, we got the 50 or so percent from Aaron. As a team, we could work through the next 60, that get it to 60, 70% with Aaron in the room. And then when Aaron's not in the room, there's going to be another 10 or 20% that he's not going to ever care about, but it's necessary for it to get done.
Yes.
You've got to staff your weakness. And so many times we staff people that are like us. Don't staff you. You're already on the team. Staff your weakness. That means you're going to have to navigate the quirks and personality. Because I've got three people on my team other than me. So we're a team of 4, and all 4 of us are unbelievably different. And that's what makes us healthy. So our strength is in our diversity, and our strength is in how uniquely gifted each one is in a different way. So you got to staff that.
That's good. What would you say to the leader that maybe isn't able to pay a staff? Because this has been kind of a thing that you've done even with volunteer teams. I don't want people to just hear like, oh, well, that'll be great one day whenever I can have a paid executive team. Yeah,
of course. My thing is especially if you're in the church world, and I know a lot of our leaders are church leaders, I'm telling you, your job is Ephesians 4, to equip the saints for work of ministry. You can't do this thing alone. You've got to have people in your life. So for the first, Bobby, you were our first full-time paid hire. What year did you come on staff?
2016.
All right, so we were 3 years in. How many people were we running?
Probably about 800.
800, without a full-time hire at a church. 3 services, 1 location. So don't give me the whole, like, I wish I could have a Bobby on team. No, I did this for 3 years, built a church to 800 people without any full-time staff. We had a bunch of people, we were stipending and part-time. But what I did is I sold people on vision. I need the vision. I need you. And the vision is that you have a strength to offer the body of Christ that if we work together, I'm not better than you. I'm not more significant than you. We are not competing with each other. We're complementing each other. And so we say phrases like this, that at Radiant, everybody is a 10 at something. So we celebrate the fact that you're a 10 at something that I'm not a 10 at. So I've got different things I'm a 10 at. But I'll tell you, where you're a 10, I need. And where Bobby's a 10, I need that on the team. And we celebrate that in a volunteer culture. But if you look at your volunteers or your people that are not paid as secondary citizens or secondary gifts, you will never have them walk in their significance. And the body of Christ will only be as effective as the people who are lay people, like in the workplace, owning their gifting within the body of Christ. And so we've got to celebrate that. We've got to celebrate. There are 10 at something. Every task that we do is a ministry. It's not just the person on the stage, but every task is a ministry. So you've got to realize that kind of language matters a lot. And that's how we've built a dream team. And there's 1,000 plus people that'll serve every weekend. Why? because we value people's giftings, and you don't have to be on staff to be significant.
I love that. I want to take a couple moments and kind of look at you personally, if you're okay with that, and from the macro side, because I know a lot of people see that, and then down to the micro. Because if we're talking about being a limited leader and having a laser focus, being very driven, but having follow through, I know people listening would love to hear a little bit more, and you choose how far you want to go. A little bit more behind the scenes, like what is a day in the life, outside of Sundays? Because I know
Sundays are fun. Sundays are exciting to me. I mean, they're exhausting. But they're I preach 5 times every Sunday right now, which I love. But those are exhausting. But throughout the week, again, I'm going to do my best work during my best time. So my best time is probably 7:30 in the morning till 11:30. Is my absolute prime. So if I wake up, I normally wake up, spend time with God. I'm at the gym by 6 almost every morning, and then from there I'm going into work mode. And I want to get to work quick because that's my prime. That's where my brain is the most fresh.
Got it.
So I have those times, and I'm going to focus on, again, those 3 tiers. What am I paid to do? So for me, it's I create content. I lead the church. So through the preaching of God's word. So it's going to get the best part of me. Content's not going to get the last part of me. It's going to get the best part of me. The second thing is, what do I do to add value to the whole church? Well, I lead our executive team. That's another thing. I do that to add value to our church. I give vision. I help critique different areas of ministry. So I'm going to give some of that my time. I think it's Carrie Newhoff gave the green, yellow, red parts of your day.
Yeah.
And when you're working best. And I thought that was so brilliant. So my green is that time. My yellow is somewhere in that, 11:30 to 1:32. My red is, you get me after 2:30 in the afternoon, 3 o'clock. I'm not good. I'm not good for you. I'm not good. If you're at home, if you come to my house during that time, especially a day off, I'm normally taking a nap.
Wow.
Because I just know that's the time I need to refresh. So I'm trying to focus on that. And I'll tell you the biggest issue I deal with, which is an issue we all deal with, is we just like to get distracted. We like to get distracted. But I'll tell you, it saved my life so many times, being not just focused, but being ahead of schedule so that you can be prepared for the unprepared, the crazy things that the world throws at us all the time. The world throws stuff at us all the time. And it'll mess up. There's a death in the church, or some major news event happens, or some technology thing happens, and I have to change my week, and I can change my week because I was focused beforehand.
And not to distract us from where you're going with that, but you've said yourself that naturally, just Aaron Burke in general, it has a tendency towards ADD, right?
Yep.
So somehow you've navigated. That's been an unfair thing of like, I kind of pop over. I'm an idea guy. I'm a daydreamer. All of that. So, but you've turned that into an advantage of like, kind of compensating and learning how to get ahead of the curve. What does that look like? Has there been practical things?
Well, ADD, I mean, you got such a superpower in the fact of that your mind is just constantly thinking and constantly going. But I've had to learn how to focus my attention on one thing and one thing only. And it's really hard. So I know some people, even some of my family members, still use medicine for it. I don't. I've actually never been prescribed medicine for it. Even though I've tried it, but it helps. It helps. I mean, you take medicine, some of that medicine will get you focused. But for me, I've just had to figure out environment matters.
Environment, that's good.
So if I'm in an environment that is a distracting environment, like I can't work in a coffee shop. Well, 1, people are going to come up and talk to me. 2, I'm going to be thinking about stuff all around. I'm not going to be able to focus. I actually have a hard time even focusing in a room by myself. Like, there's a lot of those kind of things. So I figure out in my life, if I'm at my desk, if I have a coffee in my hand, I cannot sermon prep or write content without a coffee in my hand.
Gotcha.
For some reason. Maybe that's my outlet for
like
ADD.
some rituals.
There's a ritual. You got to find out what your flow is. I have friends that have to do stuff outside. So they have to work outside. They love the environment of it. You figure out what works best for you. The key is get your mind focused. We call it, one of the books I read, it was so good. It's called Stolen Focus. And it was all on this idea that we are so distracted. Our mind is going, we're touching our phones hundreds of times a day. We're going back and forth to social media. It's the same thing. It's going from tab to tab to tab on our computer, but our mind can't shift that much. We actually can't multitask. We think we can multitask.
It's a myth.
It's a myth. We're not multitasking. We're shifting from one task to another quickly, and we're not effective at any of it. So what he says is the goal is to get what's called to the flow state. Flow state is where you're in the, you know what, it's like you're in the zone.
Yeah.
And if I'm in the zone, I can get, when I'm out of the zone, it'll take me 10 hours to write an outline for a message. When I'm in the zone, I can do it in an hour and a half because you get so connected in the zone.
Yeah.
Now, that's not the full sermon prep, but that's a good outline. So you got to figure out, my thing is it's my job to get me in the zone. If I could get in the zone, in the flow state, then it just happens quick. So you got to remove the distractions. So stop trying to work with your friends. Like, I don't get this whole thing. It's like, oh, we're all going to get together and we're all going to sit at a coffee shop and all work. Nobody's working. They're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
You can't get in the flow. Like, get in the flow. When you get in the flow, you're able to actually focus and get your work done at your best time.
That's good. I love that. Well, in these last couple of minutes that we have for the last episode of this season, just to shift gears and go a little bit more holistic for a moment. One is I would love for us to, look at the book again and just make sure that people know, like, that this book, obviously we've covered some concepts. Hopefully you already have the book. If you don't have the book, like, please, you're missing out. Like, if you're a pastor, this is the kind of book that you want to buy for your whole staff. Like, we've done that where we'll buy books for our entire team and we'll go through them. Something that is really cool about this book is there's discussion questions. And you can make it really, really practical. And if you're newer to leadership, like if you're or not even newer to leadership, but trying to transition your leadership, and you're trying to figure out how to lead your team, the best next step is to go through a book. And I would even recommend this book being the book that you go through. Like, it's really practical for both their personal, this is your team, their personal development as well as their professional development. And so you can make it a whole small group study. You could do a lot with that. So don't miss out. Obviously, that's not a salesy thing. It's because there's a lot of opportunities to get a lot of stuff. This is one that you want to highlight. So make sure and get that wherever books are sold. And then, just in the last few moments, Pastor Aaron, if you want to kind of look at a recap, like we've talked about a lot of stuff over the last several weeks. How would you put a bow on this? What are the big things that stand out in your mind?
Here's my issue is we're all frustrated with how unfair life is. We're all frustrated with the things that we have going against us. You didn't have the parents that you thought would raise you the way that you want to be raised. You don't have the job that you think is the best job for you. You're frustrated with the fact that you didn't go to the school that would give you the best, upper hand. We all have unfair things that have happened in our life. But if we trust God and if we believe what he said, even the unfair things can become our advantage. Here's how. When life is unfair, God either solves our problem or spins them for a greater purpose. And the way he spins them is he lets us, in that moment, say, are we going to handle this thing well? Because I wrote it down this way in the book. It's not about what life hands you. It's about how you handle it.
That's so good.
So it's not about what life hands you. It's how are you handling it? Because if you handle it well, you can leverage it for a greater purpose. You show me the most successful people on the planet today. They've all been handed bad hands, but they handled them well. Handled them well. And when you handle them well, it becomes an advantage for your life. So I'm telling you, we've all had those moments. And so I put in into the book 7 questions to go off the 7 unfair advantages to ask yourself. So I'll end it with this, just asking you, like, what dream from God have you stopped dreaming? You got to dream again. Dream again. It's an unfair thing, but dream it. Dream it again. And I'm telling you, God moves through those dreams and those visions that he gives for your life. Here's the other one. What's the rejection that God is trying to teach you something out of? Or maybe he's trying to redirect your life through rejection. How are you dealing with that? Here's the third one is, despite your pay, how's your work ethic right now? Are you bringing your best to your job? Here's the fourth one. Are you maintaining your integrity? We talked about that a lot. Be a person of character and integrity. Number 5, what opportunities are you embracing during this season? You're in a tough season, but are you learning something through it? And are you connecting with someone through it? We talked about that already. Here's number 6. Are you staying encouraged not to quit? Because you'll win this thing if you don't quit. There's a whole season, a whole chapter in the book about being forgotten and wanting to quit. Don't quit in dark seasons. And here's the last one is, what is God trying to get you to focus on? If you gave your life to one thing, what would that one thing be that you could be effective at? And as a leader, if you give your life to that, you will be successful.
I love that. It has been such an honor. This
Great season
has been awesome. I'm excited. The book, I believe this is going to be the first of many.
I hope so.
Thank you for taking the time to write it. I know it was an investment. It was a sacrifice. And so just on behalf of the community, we really appreciate you and your leadership and give you a ton of honor for it. And so thank you guys again for watching and being a part of the Made for More community. Again, continue to give us feedback. We're praying through what the next thing looks like. And so go back and listen to it again. Share it with your friends. Continue to subscribe. And we look forward to connecting with you in the future.